his baked chocolate tart. And wonderful, it's a great recipe. You take a short crust shell, and I can tell you what the recipe is because I know it intimately. You take 300 grams of dark chocolate, 200 grams of butter, and you melt them together gently. You put 2 eggs, 2 egg yolks, and 90 grams of caster sugar into the bowl of an electric mixer. You whisk that on high speed for 5 to 6 minutes until it's really light and stable. Fold it into the chocolate mixture, spoon that into the pastry shell. Bake 180 degrees for 11 to 12 minutes until just set. Set it aside to cool for 20 minutes, then slice and serve. Why do I know that recipe? Because I've made it about 2,000 times. It was invented in 1982 by one of the greatest chefs who ever lived, a guy called Nico Ladinas. And yet, just last month, a Sydney-based chef thought, you know what, I reckon nobody knows that. I'll steal that. And I reckon that's wrong. I reckon that's wrong. I think that cheats you as a customer out of innovation. And I think it's disrespectful to the people who have developed stuff in the past. So how then do you be truly creative? When you think about it, we've got 5,000 years of culinary history to deal with. How do you create something truly new? Well, that genuinely does take hard work. If you wonder why it takes 2.5 years to produce a cookbook, because every element of every recipe has to be worked out from scratch. Now, the other thing you should know about the way in which I work, unlike a lot of people, I don't go and buy, get my foods delivered from some wholesale merchant or whatever. I buy every single ingredient from retail supermarkets. Do you know why? Because I buy the same brands you buy. And so when I make it, I know exactly how it will turn out when you make it. I don't use commercial equipment, we use domestic equipment. We use domestic mixers, domestic sized bowls, we use domestic ovens. We've got all the commercial stuff downstairs in the testing kitchen. But when we're testing something for a book like this, I want to know that when you go to make, for example, our baked lemon tart, how will it turn out in your kitchen? Because that really matters. How many of you in the past have gone and made a recipe, whether from a newspaper, a magazine, possibly from a book, and had an abject failure? Only one. 2? I reckon it's more. Yeah. I reckon I put up probably 6 hands. Do you know, I recently downloaded an app that was created by one of the world's most famous chef. I don't think he needs naming. And I was flicking through some of the recipes, and I got to his chopped chip cookies. And I've been a baker for 25 years. I took one look at this and I said, oh, come on, you can't be serious. This recipe is just wrong. It's called for 300 grams of plain flour, a tablespoon of baking powder, a tablespoon of bicarb of soda. And I'm going, no! I mean, look, you guys intuitively know this is wrong. And this is the problem. How do you know when information is going to be reliable? Don't just buy a cookbook because it's interesting. Don't buy this just because you think, oh, well, it's a nice thing to have. You should buy it because it interests you. You should buy it because you want to be certain that any page you turn to, any dish you want to cook, you are guaranteed a perfect result first time every time. After I finish doing my testing, I then hand it off to one of the 300 economists who work for me. And they'll retest it and give me their notes. If there's a problem, we'll redesign and retest again. By that time, we've cooked it maybe 8 times. Once that's done, every single one of these recipes was handed off to one of my wife's friends. Every book I've ever published, the recipes have always been tested by mums from the schools. It's important. Because it's not a matter of whether I can understand it, it's a matter of whether someone who's not a professional can understand it and make it work. And every single one of those came through with flying colours. So what is the book? What is the book? It's the food clock. What makes it different? Well, quite a lot. It's not just a cookbook for starters. It starts out as a novel. Do you know that? It starts out telling the story of a little character called Henri Petitpois, Mr. Little Pete. He lives in a fictional world near a little town, a fictional town called Guernsey, which is near the very real town of Montauban in the heart of Bordeaux. Why start off with a novel? Well, the whole reason was that I got asked a question that I wasn't able to answer by a colleague. Yeah, a few years back, he said to me, Ed, when's strawberry season? I said, mate, summer, why? He goes, no, if I go to the shops today, are the strawberries going to be any good? I thought, actually, that's a really interesting question, isn't it? Because there's a lot of variables going on there. It's this time of the year, the quality of this year's summer, the particular farm that it came from, the husbandry of the plants, the shipping, the handling, the packing, the providoring. So much goes to actually into determining whether the fruit or the veg or the meat or the fish will actually be any good. Wouldn't it be great if you could have a special machine? Imagine this, okay? You wake up in the morning and suddenly it goes, and it comes and says, today you should eat strawberries and pork loin and mustard and chocolate. And if you go and buy them today, I guarantee they'll be perfect. How good would life be? You would always have the very best ingredients, first time, every time. And believe me, good ingredients are the basis of a great meal. I'll come to that in just a moment. Well, what it was I took this concept of this imaginary alarm clock, a food alarm clock, and went, oh, a food clock? Wouldn't it be great to have a food clock? But of course it's fiction. So it had to be told through a fictional world. And so this character in the story discovers this food clock, and it kind of changes his life, and it changes the way he lives a little bit. But the recipes that emanate from the story are the recipes that become the cookbook component of the book itself. Now, I'll get on to, in a minute, to what the book looks like and how it works, but just going back to why seasonality matters. I worked at a little restaurant in London. I don't know if... Has anyone eaten at Le Gavroche? Anyone been to London? Little 3 Michelin star place, pretty good. I was the head pastry chef there, it was pretty good. No, seriously, I totally bullshitted my way to that job. I came from working sort of fairly middle to average restaurants in Australia. I had a mate who was working there as a commis chef, and I turned up in London after I'd been working in the Solomon Islands on a development project for Australian volunteers abroad for 2 years. I got sick of that, so I went to London to start cooking again. And I rock up there, and I thought, oh, I can blag my way into this. So I completely falsified a resume. I'll own that, I absolutely did. But I knew, I backed myself because I will work harder than anyone else. I will be first in, last out every day. I will read more, I will learn more. I am very quick on the uptake. I got found out after about 2 days. But Michel Roux, who's the head chef there, he came to me and said, you know what, they've come to a conclusion. You are not who you claim to be, are you? No, chef. I'm sorry. I said, but that is, you work very hard. You're very respectful. I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to work with you for 1 week. At the end of 1 week, we'll see what you know. Maybe you keep the job, maybe you don't. And so the legendary Michel Roux Senior, not Junior, the real man himself, worked side by side with me for 5 days and taught me so much in those 5 days. At the end of 5 days, he turned to me and said, you know what, I think you're going to make it here. And at the end of 2 years, I'd gone from being a commis chef to a demi-chef to a chef de partie to sous chef in charge of pastry. I want to put this in context for you. This was the #1 restaurant in London at the time, and this punk Australian self-taught pastry chef was in charge of 6 French blokes. They did not like it.